Hello, my name is Ron Bates. I'm the Chief Watchmaker at Darkness Cemetery. I'm also an alchemist with very minor success. I worked on it for several months, and it appears that after all that work, I can pay myself about 19 cents an hour. And that's not much, and I don't think I'm going to pursue it, but it was really interesting while I was there, and I'm glad I got to do it. Anyway, the most important thing that I do probably is the theory of everything. I'm a theory of everything mathematical purist, and I operate at 16 significant figures. At that particular point of 16 figures, I get out to the point where the chaos of the perfect order of the universe starts becoming very crystal clear. Anyway, that's where I intend to be from here on out, and I won't be going back to electrodynamics, quantum mechanics, that sort of thing. One really good thing that you might need to think about is that it's a known fact that there's 1,000,000 times more magnetism on the surface of the nucleus of an atom than there is anywhere in the electron cloud. So you have a choice between operating at 1 unit of value or 1,000,000 units of value, and I have chosen to move over to the surface of the nucleus to do all of my work from here on out. Anyway, that's what I do almost on everything. Welcome to Defeating Global Warming with Farallonian Magnetics and 2 AA batteries, October status. Because this is a status report, I'm going to go ahead and go directly into the data. The data that I'm using is the ERSL data from the NOAA group, and I believe that all of the calculations are based on the Mauna Loa CO2 station in Hawaii. Anyway, you can get to the original data and not have to look at the stuff that I have all marked up. You can just go to the NOAA work sites and ultimately kind of meander around. They do have monthly data on several of the different sites that they have, especially the one for climate change. You can get to it and it will take you back, 50 years. But anyway, they have lots and lots of data, and the column that I'm using is the monthly average. And you can also pick up monthly averages for the oceans. Now, that's not important for what I'm doing here today, but it will be important very soon, because as the spun up CO2 gathers with water droplets and that sort of thing, and ultimately gets down to the oceans and becomes a carbonate or a bicarbonate, it will become really important at that time. But for right now, it's not all that important. The most important thing about the data that I'm concerned with is the particular activity that I was involved with. What I was trying to do was extend the accumulation or simulation of CO2 by the atmosphere and the plants, mostly just the green growing plants along the continents and the landmass. That always starts in about June. You can go back years and years, and it'll either start in May or June, but usually June. And it goes down. the CO2 level at the mid-troposphere drops rather consistently throughout the summer months, and then along in September, October, it begins to go back up because there's less CO2 being used by the plants as during the winter season, at least in the North American continents and that sort of thing. But what I was trying to do with my 2 AA batteries, I had originally set up, and at 16 significant figures, I was trying to balance a checkbook. I was trying to get to 0 whenever the summertime finished, and before it actually started back up, I wanted to hold the accumulation or the assimilation of CO2 by the oceans and by the plants for hopefully an additional month beyond where it would normally make a turn and start going up, where it goes up all the way through the October. It goes through October, November, all the way around to the following June. It continues to climb, and you can see that from the data itself. Now I'll put up the second page here in a minute so you can see it. But essentially, we have been moving from 5 months, sometimes as much as 6 months, where the absorption of the CO2 has been dropping, or the absorption has been growing, and where it's been growing in the atmosphere to mid-troposphere has been declining in the summer months and ultimately growing in the winter months. And you can see that from the data itself. You can go back like 6 years, and for 6 years it's always started, the CO2 at the mid-troposphere would drop starting in June and begin to accumulate again in October. And I wanted to balance the checkbook and get that to zero difference at least. And that's the only thing that I had any hope of doing. And the way it worked out, it became a real struggle because I was having to predict mathematically what a mathematician would be doing on Mauna Loa, while at the same time what I was doing here was spinning it down and aiming directly at the mid-troposphere, and I was not able to get my 16 significant figures and my 1,000,000 to 1 productivity increase that I'd expected. But I had divided my workload between the 2 AA batteries. One was on a ground wave and the other one was on an air wave, and I was losing the battle big time. So I had to switch power off of the ground wave and really do use say sprint capability to knock down specifically the CO2 in the mid-troposphere itself. And that's kind of inconsequential. It's just nothing but a numeric value that I was trying to use as a target, and balancing a checkbook trying to get it to be 0. But anyway, I created what I call the Bates divot, and that particular divot is mine. It's not anybody else's. In the October 2019 data, the CO2 had dropped down to 408.53. The previous month it was 408.54. And whenever you're trying to balance a checkbook, you need to get to 0. In my case, I miss it by 1/100th of a part per million. And I guess, and I'm going to take credit for it, I did that. Nobody else did it. Nobody else is doing theory of everything. Nobody else is spinning up CO2 and knocking it down, that sort of thing. Well, I'm only spinning it up for experiments, but I am the only one that's using theory of everything to knock it down, and I did it. Now this is just a status report for the month of October, and I guess the conclusion is that yes, I can reach the mid troposphere with an air wave, and I prefer using a ground wave all the way around because it would be effective both on the landmass and on the upper portions of the oceans. But anyway, the conclusion is yes, we can in fact do it, we can manage it, and there is hope. Now, several months ago, Dr. Neil Tyson did a piece on one of the science channels where he talked about global warming and the difference between normal CO2 and man-made CO2. And what he said was that man-made CO2 is larger. Now, I've carried that to extreme heights. What I'm really saying is, yeah, we can take care of this if we reach out there and attack just the man-made CO2, reverse engineer it so that we undo what we did and what humanity has done and what humanity is going to keep on doing. We need to find a way to do it and implement it, and that's exactly what I've done. So I guess the status report is, yeah, we can do it, and according to Dr. Neil Tyson and myself, yes, we need to do it. My particular problem with it is not necessarily just the global warming, it's the fact that the highly spun up CO2 that's man-made, and that's different than the CO2 that's man-made by making cement or burning coal or forest fires or anything else. It's a particular type and it's created in a particular way, and the only way to take it out of play is to reverse engineer it and undo it.